Millions of people worldwide are likely going to lose their jobs, and that is simply because they would actually be replaced by AI. According to a recent survey by Goldman Sachs, it goes on to reveal that by 2045, about 50% of the global workforce will likely be replaced due to AI automation. And that is a key thing that we need to highlight and talk about more often in order to prepare people for the future. One of the key things that you also need to know is the fact that about 57% of the global workforce are actually living paycheck to paycheck, which simply means that they don't have anything left at the end of the month to cater for their needs or any wants that they may have. And that is a very dire situation for most people to be in. So just imagine by 2045, if all these people are not able to find jobs, then that simply means that they will be plunged further into the poverty line, and that would actually render so many families, at least millions of families, homeless, and so many people in huge economic distress. And that is why it is necessary that we discuss this. And so in this video, we'll be talking about how AI may likely replace you by actually rendering your skills redundant, and how you can take advantage of whatever is happening currently in its preliminary stages, protect yourself, protect your finances, your family, and then more importantly, secure a better future for yourself and your family. And so if you're new here, my name is Nana. I hold a master's degree in business finance, and on this channel, we discuss everything personal finance and personal development. But before we go into the details, there's one thing that we need to highlight, and that is the positive impact that AI adoption is having on the global economy. So currently, we've actually increased our productivity as humans by at least 15% due to AI automation. And so most of these large companies are actually steering themselves towards AI adoption. And that is simply because it would make them much more efficient and effective in the pursuit of their mission and their vision. And that is why it is necessary for you to actually catch on to the trend so that you wouldn't be left behind. Also, there is a school of thought that actually believe that this is the end of humanity. I don't believe that personally, because human beings have always found ways and means of actually coming up with innovative ways to actually solve problems. And so this is one of the key things that may actually change the course of our history. However, it wouldn't be the end of the human race. And so I believe in our prowess and our abilities as human beings to actually make effective decisions in the future. And that is why it is very necessary for us to actually pay attention to what is happening in order to actually mobilize our resources and then prepare towards the future. And that brings us to the third part of the video, and that is how would AI most likely replace you. I've met so many people out there, I have friends that always doubt that, their job are unique and their skills are quite unique, that AI wouldn't be able to do that. What you have to know is that the development of AI is at its preliminary stages. They are not fully fledged or they are not fully developed. So mind you, in the next couple of years or probably in the next couple of decades, it will be much more easier for AI to actually replace you. And that is simply because every single thing that you know, think about it. ChatGPT is probably actually doing more than you actually know. Every single thing that I learned at my first degree level and even at my master's degree level, evaluating assets and every single thing that I thought was a peculiar skill to, just a few people that had gone through the courses at uni and probably even at the master's level, ChatGPT is already doing it. And that is what actually scares me. I've had several conversations with several family members, including my wife, and all the time I just sit down and then ask myself the simple question. These are the things that our kids will be going up against. And the question is, are they going to win? Imagine you having to compete for a job with something that is 100 times more likely to outperform you. ChatGPT is extremely intelligent, and one thing that actually happens in the AI world is that most of these AI agents are self-taught, in that the more you give them tasks to perform, the smarter they become. So over the years, there's nothing literally that would actually stand in their way when it comes to competing with human beings for opportunities and probably even for jobs. And that is the reason why you don't actually have to just sit down and then think that your job is out of touch when it comes to AI automation. Everyone is actually involved, and there is a need for you to actually prepare so that you wouldn't be taken by surprise. And this brings us to the most important point, and that is how many of these jobs would actually be replaced by AI. So according to Goldman Sachs, the couple of jobs that would likely easily be replaced by AI are 1. Computer programmers, 2. Accountants, 3. Auditors, legal and administrative assistants, customer service reps, telemarketers, proofreaders and copy editors, and then credit analysts. And that is the point that you need to know. So if you fall within any of these industries, then you shouldn't on any day feel actually so pompous or think that you're actually out of touch when it comes to AI automation. Because simply, before you even realize, AI would actually take over. And so that actually brings us to the last part of the video, and that is, what do you actually have to do in order to protect yourself, protect your skill set and your job against being taken over by AI? And so the first thing that you can do is to develop an AI resilience skill. So one of the key things that you need to highlight is the fact that as it stands now, AI is extremely terrible when it comes to emotional intelligence. So one of the key things that you can do now is to try as much as possible and then develop some interpersonal human relationship skills, because there are some problems that sometimes spring up that we all don't want to talk to an AI agent or probably even a machine. We just want to feel that human touch. We just want to hear someone on the other side that actually feels what we feel like. For instance, when we were moving into this new flat, there was an AI agent known as Tilly, and she assisted with literally everything: our council tax, our gas and electric, our water and everything. We just had to key in a couple of details and that was all. Everything was done. However, there were some things that we actually found out later in the flat that we actually needed a human being to actually set up and then help us or assist us to get those things over and done with. And that is how the human interface would actually be needed in the near future. We want people that we can actually relate to. We want people that are emotional, and that human beings are emotional beings. We sometimes actually think emotionally before subsequently finding logical reasons to actually back our emotional decisions. And so at this point, one of the key things that you can do is to learn how to communicate effectively with co-workers or people out there, with your clients. Try as much as possible and then build several relationships that you know might actually be helpful in the near future, because these are the shortfalls or the shortcomings that, as it stands now, AI is likely going to have in the future. Secondly, what you can do is to become an AI co-pilot and not a competitor. So one of the key things that people actually have to know is the fact that they don't have to compete with AI. When it started out, when chatgpt was rolled out and all of that, I felt like, that was cheating in a way. You don't have to actually go through all these easy ways and means to generate ideas, to generate thumbnails, to generate titles and all of that. But subsequently, I realized that, this is one of the most effective and efficient ways that would likely boost your productivity. And we've seen that in the world. We've increased our productivity, like I stated earlier, by 15%. And so you don't actually have to be stuck in, a state of analysis paralysis, or you actually having to hold on to what is the norm in the past, in that you don't want to actually give into the wave and the influx of AI agents and all of that. If you do that, you're likely going to be left in the past. So what you can do is to be open-minded, try as much as possible and then educate yourself as much as you can, and then try to hop onto the wave of AI opportunities. And that is what will subsequently ensure that your job is secured in the future. And of course, your income is secured and you wouldn't have to live paycheck to paycheck in the near future. This brings us to the third solution, and that is to move towards a more human-centric industry, i.e. you have to switch industries. And so if you're in any of those aforementioned industries that I mentioned earlier, that according to Goldman Sachs, it is likely and much more easier to be replaced or to get your job automated by AI, then this is a time for you to actually have to reconsider and then try as much as possible to actually pick up a job or to train or upskill into an industry that is more human-centric, or that actually ensures or requires some form of human interface when it comes to the delivery of goods and services. For instance, the healthcare sector is one of the most protected areas when it comes to AI automation and influx. And even with that, there's one thing that you need to know. There are several operations going on that are actually AI assisted, in that these surgeons actually go through the process, of course, with several insights from AI and several AI assisted robots and all of that. And so if that is the case for you, like if you find yourself like me in the finance and the insurance industry, then this is the time for you to actually have to reconsider and then pick a much more human-centric industry. And that would also subsequently ensure that you have something coming in and your job is protected or secured against AI automation in the near future. This brings us to the fourth solution, and that is to build a personal brand. So according to business expert Daniel Priestley, one of the key things that you can actually do in order to fortify your finances and your job against AI automation is to actually build a personal brand, in that you need to actually stand out and then let people associate you with something, or your competence or your skill set with something, so that the very first minute that that thing actually pops up, for instance, if they want to purchase insurance from someone, they can actually say, oh, Nana is in the insurance sector, so anything that he actually recommends, it is much more easier for people to actually follow his advice or to follow his lead and then purchase, simply because they would actually be able to identify you or your competences in that industry. And that is one of the competitive advantages that would actually be required in the near future, because AI wouldn't actually be able to build a brand on its own, at least holding all the factors constant as it stands now. So what you can do as human being is to actually try as much as possible to build a massive following, or to start even probably a side hustle. And that also ensures that your income streams are diversified and that you wouldn't actually have to rely on a single source of income, i.e. your paycheck. And that actually moves you a couple of miles above the level of economic subsistence, and also protect your financial progress that you've made over the years. This brings us to the last point, and that is to actually try and stay on the AI learning curve. And so one of the key things that you actually need to do is to try and subject yourself to several research papers out there. And that is exactly what I'll be doing on this channel from now, because AI is actually having a toll, and it's likely going to change the course of so many things that we do, including our finances. And that is why I'm dedicating this channel also to several things that you can actually do, including several AI skills that might actually help you to earn more in the future, and also protect your progress financially, and also what you can do in order to ensure that your budget is actually drawn to incorporate all these things subsequently. And of course, everything that has to do with personal finance is actually in relation to the changes that AI is actually going to deliver on the global stage. And so if you've had value in this video, kindly smash the like button. It really helps with the algorithm. And then consider actually subscribing, because that is what would actually ensure that you also stay on the AI curve, because subsequently I'll be shooting several videos on AI and how you can actually earn more in the future, protect your progress, protect your skills and your family, and avoid the level of having to live paycheck to paycheck and living below the level of economic subsistence altogether. Thank you for spending time with us, and see you in the next video.